Hello, and welcome to this, the 1503rd edition of Ealing Talking Newspapers, with a selection of the news and content from our local gazette, dated January the 25th, 2013, and some information that we hope you will find useful.
On a Friday morning, one of the compilers buys a couple of copies of the newspaper, cuts out all the articles that they think they might use.
All this work is done by a large number of volunteers. It requires money to keep it going, and we raise funds from time to time.
You know, we're not helping thousands of people, but we are helping people, some of whom we know as individuals and others who we sort of know remotely, simply because we know they're there and we know that it is a need of theirs to receive the news in this way.
We're all very fortunate, the great majority of us, not to be blind.
Most of our listeners are people who've lost their sight late in their lives. We get a lot of new listeners, and there's quite a turnover because a lot of them are very elderly, and therefore they unfortunately don't stay with us all that long. I knew the age of one of the new listeners because he was over 100.
The risk of isolation can be quite considerable when you are visually impaired.
But it is important that, especially an older blind person who is stuck at home, gets all the local news. I mean, young people that have been afflicted with blindness, of course, are already much more active because they have different training. But it's for those that are housebound particularly.
And the main headlines this week: Pitts Hangar's £8 million facelift, Council to run Hanwell Community Centre, and tenants trapped by drink and drug users on Greenman Estate.
The 1856 building started out as a school for orphaned and disadvantaged children, and its alumni include Charlie Chaplin and his half-brother Sidney. It has since featured in films such as Billy Elliot, and has been used for rehearsal space by bands such as The Who, Deep Purple and Led Zeppelin.
We're
Nowadays,
giving
the centre hosts a variety
over 100, between 100 and 150, it fluctuates. People who mostly elderly, mostly people who've lived in Ealing a lot of their lives. We're giving them the newspaper on tape that they can no longer read for themselves.
There used to be many more local newspapers in Ealing. It is like its own town on the edge of London, that's for sure.
I've lived in Ealing for over 20 years, been blind more or less all my life. I've got one son, one guide dog. Where I live, there's a little community of us, and we all look after each other.
They're actually recorded digitally, but we have to turn them back into analogue recordings, and they go on to tape. Those tape copiers are the same ones as we've been using ever since I was involved.
Years gone by, they were the height of technology, and now, of course, they're passé. for older listeners, they are obviously a technology they're very happy with, and it probably would be quite difficult for them to change to digital.
If they go over to computers, I'd be a bit stuck because I'm one of the rare ones that doesn't have a computer. But, you know, like if they went over to memory sticks, but, you know, it's, by then hopefully I might have got the hang of it.
Another resident, 46, who lives alone and asked to remain anonymous. Getting more feedback from people, you know, are there things they would like to hear, like the football results?
I was a bit afraid of putting something in about football because I thought all the women would, but no, the men, they want a bit about football, you know, the women want to do something else.
I'm a Chelsea fan, so I'm quite interested in the football.
It's nice to get compliments from our listeners.
It's lovely to get a letter. Sometimes they'll write in saying, thank you very much, wouldn't you know? And it's nice to get that and you think, wow.
And I had it pinned on the board for a little while. It says, just to say thank you for the time you give up to make the tapes. This was my 5th tape, and I would like to say how much I'm enjoying. I really look forward to the Saturday post arriving. Thank you once again, and keep up the good work, from a grateful listener.
And I thank them very much for doing it because it's all voluntary, and you know, I'd certainly miss it if it didn't exist.